find that space that feels more in line with my values and what matters to me, what really supports valued living, and something that will support my conscious evolution. And that's a relationship that you will always, always benefit from investing in. Hello and welcome to part 3 of this short series on meditation. I'm Eleanor, talking to you today about some of my own experiences with meditation and also speaking as a clinical psychologist with a considerable amount of experience working with a wide variety of people wanting to incorporate meditation into their lives. So far we've talked about what meditation is, and in that first episode I was essentially wanting to break down some of the stereotypes and unhelpful and unrealistic expectations that I find people have around this practice. So what is meditation? In summary, is that it can look a variety of different ways, but really we're considering a very grounded present moment focus. And this focus aims to embody the very specific qualities of deep, deep acceptance and a complete lack of judgment, or at least the ability to notice where we are judging. Meditation is aimed at learning to just be in the present moment with self and experience, and to observe that in a non-judgmental way, to embrace acceptance. In part 2, we looked a little more at the why of meditation, and basically I summarized some of the highlights from the research that is showing very promising results as to the advantages of meditation. And we see that meditation is beneficial on physical and mental health outcomes. It really does improve health and improve our ability to still the mind, or at least become more aware of what the mind is doing, and to acknowledge that for just what it is, that it is just one part of our experience. A thought is just a thought. It's just the activity of the mind. For a thought is just a thought. It's just activity coming from the brain, from the mind, and it's not necessarily the truth. So if we're having a negative thought, a very unhelpful thought, it's usually far better to acknowledge that that is happening and that it is a thought, rather than to just let the thought run on unchallenged. And it's just something that my brain box is generating based on some past or current experience. And it doesn't necessarily make the thing true just because I thought it. So to be able to acknowledge thought material for what it is, to be able to identify ourselves as more than the thoughts, is extremely helpful. Even if the thing that we are thinking is partially factual, it's still far better to out it and acknowledge it, because usually the thought material that is unhelpful will often have an element of truth, but it will twist that into a lot of negative self-judgment. So being able to say, I'm having the thought that, whatever it is, allows us to separate a little from being totally enmeshed with and believing the thoughts that we think. Meditative practice can help us be far more aware of what the mind is doing rather than just buying into it. And another very important benefit is that meditation enables us to better know ourselves as the indwelling consciousness beyond the thought material, the energy beyond that, but still deeply connected to and grounded in the human experience. And this awareness is where we can become much more connected to our conscious evolution, our values, and our sense of purpose. So we have an experience of having a physical existence, an emotional experience, and a mental experience, all the while knowing that we are the ones aware of all of that. So we don't have to be sucked into the reality of one aspect of that existence. And today, I'm talking a little more about how we might go about getting started with a meditation practice. I feel that meditation is a way of setting and reaffirming a very intentional way of relating with self and with life. From years of clinical work, I believe that those are the most enduring relationships we have. The way we relate with ourselves influences our entire experience of everyone and everything we interact with. So nurturing that to be a positive and growthful relationship is really key to our health and well-being, and meditation really supports this increasing awareness. So how do we do this? In part, we just make a start. Like most things in life, starting where you feel that you can is a way to get started with this. The goal is to be able to sit with yourself, to be in some sense okay with yourself. But sitting isn't always accessible for everyone. For some, yoga or qigong or tai chi, a number of those meditative style practices can be a really helpful way into this kind of practice. There's something about a gentle movement practice that is still meditative that can help us to slow down, to help the body to be still and to get centered in your own experience and grounded in the present moment. We spend a lot of our lives reminiscing or ruminating or lamenting the past or worrying about the future. But meditation is about sitting in the present moment and bringing our attention back to the present moment when the mind wanders, because for most of us, the mind will wander. So make a start and work with yourself in alignment with the principles of non-judgment and observing what comes up, and re-engineer your approach if you have to along the way. So make a start. Be creative. Have a positive coaching mindset with yourself that will encourage you to keep having a go and trying. I will caution again that for some people, the stillness of meditation can initially make some thoughts, memories, or fears that have been lying just below conscious awareness. It can make those become more obvious and potentially more disturbing. So it's very important to practice at a pace and in a manner that works for you. As I said before, if you have certain traumas in your background, you may be better placed to work with a professional to begin with. So the beginnings of how, just have a go and try things that you feel might work for you. You might want to start with a class or use an app. There are many apps out there that are designed to help people get started with meditation. Certainly initially a guided meditation can be very helpful, whether that's a live person or a recording. But if you're listening to something and you don't like the voice or the background music, or it's in some way irritating, don't give up. Try something else. So if you're looking at apps, one of the things to consider is that a lot of them ask you to visualize. Perhaps visualize your thoughts like leaves on a stream or clouds in the sky coming and going. And these are not necessarily a bad way to approach meditation, but they're not for everyone. To start off with, not everyone can visualize anyway. So trying to do that can be irritating or disheartening or even distressing. So another factor with visualization is I find that it can very easily slip into daydreaming and becoming less present, that lesser grounded experience. So that's not my preference for healthy meditation. I believe the most helpful and growthful meditation practices are really all about increasing conscious awareness in the present moment. So some apps can certainly be relaxing, but this is not necessarily going to bring the true benefit or the full benefit of grounded meditative practice. Meditation can be relaxing, of course, but that's not necessarily the case. And relaxation certainly isn't bad, but it's not necessarily the same thing as increasing our conscious awareness and our ability to be present and be without judgment or release judgments that we become aware of. A lot of practices you'll find on apps also include a focus on the breath. And there are so many ways to do this. There's different styles of counting breath or holding for a moment, and different lengths of breaths for the exhale and the inhale. And there's a good reason why this is a popular approach. The exhale of your breath is going to stimulate the parasympathetic nervous system, which usually improves blood flow and generally calms the physical body and the nervous system. And once the body is more settled, then being still becomes a possibility. So it's a bit of a prerequisite to be able to calm the body so that you can settle in to a meditative practice. I will add again, for some people, this focus on the breath can actually be triggering it. So if that's you, don't start there. If it's compellingly unpleasant, don't start there. Try something else. Speak to a professional, work in a guided practice and find other ways. And for everybody, I would say start with a really open mind. As particularly if you are using the breath, I think we've all had the experiences of being told to just breathe in a particularly dismissive or condescending way. So if you've had that experience and it's getting in the way, maybe sit down and let that go, because really any work with meditation must feel like an autonomous choice. This is me. I'm choosing to exhale and sink into my current experience and be with myself, to really be with myself like a true, kind, loving friend. So you make an autonomous choice and feel the timelessness of the breath within. And let that bring you to deeper and deeper stillness. And for many people, meditation can become quite a spiritual experience, but that is not essential. Sometimes people begin from a much more practical point of view. It can grow into a spiritual practice or not. This is very personal. It's a very individual process. But starting in an accessible fashion is really key, a way that is going to work for you and your lifestyle. Another aspect of meditation to consider is that we see the strongest results when we build a practice that is consistent. Within reason, obviously we're human and sometimes life gets in the way, so to not be rigid with yourself, but to know that practicing a short amount every day is going to build the muscle of meditation, so to speak. It's that ability to sit still, to be more self-aware, is going to work much better with a frequency of practice. So even starting with 2 to 5 minutes every single day is going to work better than procrastinating 6 days a week and then trying to sit for 20 minutes on the 7th day and having an unpleasant experience and then walking away from it again. It's generally best to start small with something that feels achievable. Now, as with any new habit or routine that we want to bring into our lives, it's really helpful to be consistent, to find a time that you can carve out for this as a priority to yourself, as your relationship with yourself. And it can be as simple as standing still with a toothbrush while you brush your teeth. Particularly if you're a chronic multitasker, that's a great challenge. If you have one of those toothbrushes with a 2-minute timer on it, and you've got your alarm bell going off there, you can just stand still and brush, not running around the house, finishing getting ready or doing chores, but stand still at the wash basin until the beep of the toothbrush goes off, marking the full 2 minutes. Standing still and being kind and being present with yourself. So you could build a practice around just about anything. We can wash the dishes in a mindful fashion, bringing your attention back to the sensation of the soap or the water. Every time your mind wanders, bring your attention back. I find it helpful to build a morning practice. I find that that helps set up the tone of the day ahead. A little bit of an agreement with self as to how I would like to relate with myself. To breathe out, to wake up, yawn, stretch. And before you race into expectations of the day, to just take some minutes to sit there, feet on the floor, and breathe and just be present and take stock a little bit. Here I am. Here's my body. Here's the earth under my feet. And I choose to be present. And I choose to stay with myself, no matter what my experience is today. I choose. And I choose to track my life towards my highest potential, to be with myself in the present moments, working towards the best of me that I can be. And not every moment will be perfect, but I'm committed to showing up for myself and learning and being the best that I can be. So start where you feel you can start, with the toothbrush or in the driveway when you get into the car before you turn the keys in the ignition, if you have a car with keys. But take some minutes to just breathe and check in with yourself. You could do a 2-minute meditation right there before you head off to work. And once you're more accustomed to building some stillness in your life, I would recommend that you create a space that is really yours. Find a corner of the house or your bedroom that you can set up as a sacred space, where you know your intention is to go there and to sit and be still. And make it lovely for yourself. Make it an inviting space. It helps to build that habit and that expectation in the body that this is the cushion where we sit, and we're going to be still. And some days it may be easy to be still, and sometimes it might not be easy at all. But I'm making a commitment to myself and my well-being to spend some moments each day really trying to sit still, ground into the present moment, feel connected to the earth, connected to the present moment, and aligned to my highest potential. And then centering the energy in my heart, knowing my breath as a way to slow me into the infinite stillness of the present moment. And setting an intention to face my life from this space, from a space that feels more wise and more at purpose and less reactionary. To find that space that feels more in line with my values and what matters to me, what really supports valued living, and something that will support my conscious evolution. And that's a relationship that you will always, always benefit from investing in. Spend some moments connecting with self and the planet and service and conscious evolution. And that feels like a meaningful existence.